One of the weird things that was the fallout of the Marvel vs. DC book was all the amalgam characters, with the idea being that these characters would have had some sort of actual fight. One of the most ironic ones was Dark Claw, which was the hybrid of Wolverine and Batman. My old college roommate is a huge fan of both of them, and we've discussed somewhat at length as to who we would think would actually win a fight. This is also probably one of the biggest fanboyism fights. You know, there are die-hard Batman fans, die-hard Wolverine fans. They don't quite hit the level of Hulk, where, you know, Hulk by definition is unstoppable, period. As well as, you know, when he throws a tank, nobody dies. But as always, when I do these things, I have a list of criteria. I have intelligence, fighting ability, strength, speed, durability, think like endurance, your ability to recover, invulnerability, resistance to overall damage, energy projection, versatility, this is whatever sort of skills you bring to the table, and then X factor. What is that last thing that's not fully covered in this scenario? So on one hand, you have Wolverine, the man known as Logan, James Howlett, or whatever his current background story is, who has existed for hundreds of years. And if Marvel the End is any indication, he will still exist for hundreds of years. He is one of the premier members of the X-Men. Ironically, initially started out as a villain, and he was at first going to be called the Badger. I don't think he'd be anywhere near as cool if he was called Badger. You know, very, very defined facial hair, undeniably defined sort of skill sets. You know, he's got most of the super senses. He has probably one of the best regenerative abilities, period. Body laced with adamantium. You know, large razor-sharp claws. Played beautifully well by Hugh Jackman. On the other side, you have Batman. Batman is by far the absolute peak of what a human can achieve. His parents were killed in front of him at a young age, so he's more or less dedicated his entire life to fighting crime, to honing his body, his mind, everything that he possibly can, to wage an almost one-man war on crime, as well as joining forces with the Avengers. Not the Avengers, sorry, the JLA. Wolverine's with the Avengers and X-Men and X-Factor and X-Force. Wolverine essentially isn't every single book unless Spider-Man's there. They don't need both of them at the same time normally. And with the JLA, Batman ironically is kind of their de facto tactical leader. And on the other hand, someone like Grant Morrison, he's been written as the most dangerous person on the planet. So, going through this list of scenarios, you know, again, there's 9 criteria. If it's 4 to 5, the person with 5 more likely is going to win. 6 to 3, greater chance of winning. You know, depending on who your writer is, there's always a chance for somebody to be defeated. You know, I've read stories where Wolverine's been knocked unconscious by Spider-Man. There's also been stories where Wolverine has been absolutely just put down by someone like Captain America. You know, and there's also been stories where Wolverine was swallowed by Galactus and was surviving and could have potentially destroyed Galactus. So he's kind of run the gamut. Batman has also had stories where he's been beaten down by a couple of random thugs, up until the point where he's beaten Darkseid twice. So we'll begin first and foremost with intelligence. You know, if Wolverine didn't have all of his amnesia spells and didn't have huge gaps in his memory, because part of his regenerative ability is his brain is constantly creating itself anew, if he were to have had that long list of experiences, he would have, I think someone said he's got somewhere like 400 years of experience. That's a lot of experience. However, he doesn't. He's got bits and pieces, his memories are still relatively fragmented, and he doesn't have the full capacity to recollect all of that knowledge. Batman, the world's greatest detective, one of the smartest people in the DC universe, One of the smartest comic book characters, period. He is an expert tactician and he is an expert detective. So when it comes to intelligence, it's Batman. Fighting ability. Oh, let the flaming begin. When you watch Batman fight, Batman is an undeniably skilled fighter. Wolverine is a very dangerous fighter. If these two guys were to not have any powers and were to be engaged solely in a physical confrontation, Wolverine with what he knows, but none of his abilities. Batman with what he knows, no other additional abilities. Batman defeats him. Batman is a better skilled fighter. Yes, Wolverine is an undeniably dangerous fighter, and probably one of the most dangerous combatants in the Marvel Universe. However, being very dangerous and being very wild do not make you a very good fighter. They don't. He's an undeniably trained, vicious. He's got a lot of skill and a lot of knowledge. However, picture fights with Wolverine. Do you really ever see him throw a feint? Do you ever really see him try to use any sort of subtlety? No. Wolverine might sneak up and he does a pretty good job taking out a group full of people, but that's not really his style. When you've seen Wolverine take on someone like the Hulk, yeah, he's smart, he knows eyes, genitals. But finding someone like the Hulk, why do you go straight at him? He does have tremendous ability, but he doesn't actually use it. He uses everything else that he has. So fighting ability is Batman. Strength. You're talking about a guy whose bones are laced with metal. The process of walking around is very strenuous, and it makes him super strong. Speed. You've got a guy who has very acrobatic skills versus a guy who... I've often hated the idea that since Wolverine's bones are laced with metal, he probably isn't super fast. He is very fast because he's really strong. However, I'm not going to put him like, a near Spider-Man level of agility. I will say Batman does have more speed and is more agile. We're not durability. It's Wolverine. I'm not even going to discuss it's Wolverine. Invulnerability. Even though Batman will have on body armor, it's not going to do him any good. He's taking on a guy with razor-sharp claws. Wolverine, his body itself is armor. You can cut his skin, but that's fine. He's metal underneath. He's kind of like Iron Man with a skin suit. I will give the invulnerability edge to Wolverine. These two guys at range for energy projection. One person in the old X-Men side-scrolling beat 'em up, Wolverine had like a laser attack. So it'd be so awesome if he had that. In the X-Men the animated cartoon, when he popped his claws, he made like a spark shower. So he totally needs some sort of distance ability. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. If Wolverine were to shoot lasers from his eyes, that's it. It's game over. So at a distance, you've got somebody who does have things like batarangs, who does have, things of that nature. So at a distance, I do give Batman an edge. We're not on the versatility. While Batman does have a tremendous amount of skill and ability in his utility belt, a lot of it's not going to help him that much against someone like Wolverine. Batman really good at hiding in the shadows. Won't do that good against an expert tracker. So lots of abilities that Batman does have to fall upon are not going to help him against Wolverine. Batman might have an initial fight with Wolverine. If Wolverine scratches him, Batman's going to know he can't beat him straight up. He's going to try to hide. It's not going to do any good against someone with all the heightened senses in the world. So now we're down to the all-important X Factor. Batman is very good at what he does. Wolverine is the best at what he does. If these two guys do get into a fight, it is only a matter of time before Batman tires, Batman runs out of things that he can throw at Wolverine. At the end of the day, he doesn't have the ability to put Wolverine down. That's going to be the one problem we're going to have in this fight. The people who have knocked Wolverine unconscious always have some level of superhuman strength. You know, I don't know if you're going to be able to hit him in the throat in just the right spots, because you still have adamantium all around him. Most of his vital organs are all surrounded by adamantium. Could you probably get in a kidney shot? Yeah. Is it going to do anything to Wolverine? Not really. You might stun him, you might tick him off. The one advantage Batman might have is if Wolverine goes into a flat-out berserker rage, but then you're taking on a guy with razor-sharp claws who has one goal, and that goal is to gore you. You know, Batman's never fought anybody like that. He's fought very intimidating, very powerful enemies, but he's never fought somebody like Wolverine. So at the end of the day, in this fight, the X Factor goes to Wolverine. Because regardless of what Batman can do, he's going to have a hard time putting him down. You know, smoke bombs won't really do that much good. And we haven't really seen Batman toss on things like hypersonics. You know, and I do these with no prep. Yes, if Wolverine would have been in Gotham for a while and fighting some crime, Batman would probably figure out some sort of way to neutralize the X gene, which has been done before with people like Dr. Doom, and he can probably defeat him. Depending on if it's one of those point in times when adamantium is magnetic, maybe the fight can end up going somewhere and he can attach him to a steel crane, use giant magnets. However, that does not defeat him. That just stops him. At the end of the day, this is, can he incapacitate Wolverine for a decent length of time? Not just stick him to something magnetic. And at the end of the day, he's just not going to be able to.